Who are you?
My name is Chris Frantz. I'm 69 years old, an American citizen. Um, I was born in Kentucky, but my father was in the military, so I traveled around quite a bit as a child. But I ended up here in Connecticut. We've had this place since 1985. I'm a recording artist, and I studied painting at the Rhode Island School of Design before my band formed. My first band was called Talking Heads. My second band was called Tom Tom Club. Both of them did pretty well, I'm happy to say. And I'm even happier to say that both of them still sound hip today, even though it's been a while since there was a new Talking Heads record. How long has it been? I think 91 was the last release.
And I think it might have been 88. If correct me if
Oh,
I'm wrong though.
oh really?
I
88?
think I think Naked was 88, but I read that the
Oh,
band
okay.
officially dissolved in 91.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, okay. So yeah, 88. That sounds right. And so it's been a long time. We were talking heads were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We we have sort of legendary status, I guess you could say, and I'm very happy about that because that was always my dream as a kid, was to be in a band that would, number one, be cool, and number two, go down in music history. And I think that was always kind of our goal with Talking Heads. We were happy to make some money, so we didn't have to worry about paying the rent. But that was never. We never really chased money. We were happy to have some commercial, or excuse me, critical acclaim. That was good, made us feel good. But what was most important to us was to be remembered for the music well into the future, not just like into next year, but well into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we accomplished that. So I'm happy that we were able to do that.
What are your passions, you would say?
My passions? Um, well, I love visual art, and I love music, and I love. I'm fond of beautiful landscapes, whether they're urban or rural or seaside. I like to be in beautiful places, and I also I prefer it if they're historic places. Like when I'm walking down the street, I can think, oh yeah, Matisse was here, or yes, Picasso had dinner with Dali at that table over there. I mean, I really like to be in a place like that. Um, that was one great thing about CBGB's, and it was too bad that CBGB's was a club in New York where Talking Heads would often play, and later Tom Tom Club played there. But the other bands that played there were Patti Smith, Television, the Heartbreakers, Blondie, Mink DeVille, Suicide. It was really like a historic little moment that we had in the late 70s there. And it carried over into the 80s and even up into the 90s. But I think by the 90s, the club had lost some of its cachet, I think. But there was a real scene there. It was like a new vanguard of nobody really called themselves punk, but journalists called it punk. And then later, because punk wasn't working for us, we our record company president said, "Oh, Talking Heads, they're not punk, they're new wave." And this was his way of a new marketing handle for us, and it worked really well. And all of a sudden, everybody wanted to be new wave, and the the radio stations who were opposed, I mean, strongly opposed to playing punk music, were happy to play new wave music, even though it was the same bands, you know.
Mhm.
So it's marketing is so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When do you think you developed your passions?
Oh, I hadn't finished. I also have passions
Mhm.
for travel, and I have passion for uh, local color. Like I like to go to, like if I go to Maine, for example, I like to see some real Maine people, and I realize, they might not be interested in seeing me, but I enjoy when I'm down south. I love the accents. I love the differences in different places, and it's something that I think we have a real problem with in America, because the whole concept of local color is sort of almost gone away.
Mhm.
I think it's because of, well, largely I think it's because of, with the kids, things like MTV and uh, well, what else? The internet, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all that. I mean, I'm on it, but it gets to be where everybody has the same points of reference.
Mhm.
And it didn't used to be like that. It used to be, for example, you'd go to the Midwest and you'd hear a whole different set of songs on the radio than you would hear in New York, like different artists completely. And you'd think, who's that? I've never heard them before,
Mhm.
Like the first time I heard Parliament Funkadelic, for example, was in Detroit. I'd never heard them in New York. Um, so I love local color, and I also love local cuisine,
Ah, yes.
food. You could say I'm a foodie. Um, I enjoy preparing food, and I also enjoy eating food.
How has the food changed from New York to Connecticut?
Oh, well, they're kind of similar, actually.
Mhm.
Although here no, New York has everything. So it really does everything except peace and quiet. But it has any type of restaurant, any type of cuisine. You can get it in New York. But what I like about Connecticut is we have these little, like you do in Maine, these little seaside raw bars, or places where you can get a lobster roll,
Mhm.
some oysters, and we have very good pizza in Connecticut too. Frank Pepe's is
Mhm.
is famous. Uh, it's like wood-fired pizza in a big brick oven. It's
Mhm.
really delicious. You have good food in Maine as well. I know, especially Portland got really hot for restaurants for a while.
Portland's still really hot. They
Yeah,
kind of have everything too.
yeah, yeah.
I had some good pizza there recently. They have a place called Otto's. It's kind of stretched out. There's one
Uh-huh.
by the Sinclair in Boston, so they're a little outside of Portland now, but they're based in Portland, and they have this amazing pizza that's mashed potato and bacon and scallion, and it sounds a little out there, but it's so good.
Sounds good.
How have your passions evolved from when they first developed to where you are today?
Oh. Well, they're pretty much the same, I think. I mean, I've kind of calmed down on the girl watching a little bit, but it's but it's still something that I sort of can't resist. Uh, as I got old, when I was young, I was really, pardon me for being so frank, but I was really like horny all the time. And now, I thought that would go away, but it doesn't go away completely. There's something. I don't think it's just me either. I think there's something about chemical attraction. I'm very fortunate to be married to a really great woman who's has many talents, and looking good is one of them. So I'm very happily married, but still, I was trained in art school to appreciate beautiful landscapes and beautiful form and beautiful everything. And that's one thing they teach you in art school, is to observe. And so I can't help but observing my surroundings.
Do you have a clear answer for why you do what you do?
Well, I'm of a certain age right now, so I'm beginning to be tempted to just enjoy the fruits of my labors, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still doing stuff. Like I wrote a book. We're going to make more music together, Tina and I, and she's working on a book. But I'm sorry. Repeat your question again.
Oh, it's okay. It's why do you do what you do? Why do you? As an artist, almost.
Yeah. Well, it's the need for self-expression. I mean, some of us have it. Some of us don't seem to have that much need for self-expression, but some of us have like more than enough. And I think I always had more than enough need for self-expression. I was before I started drawing and painting, I was very interested in poetry, both reading it and writing it. And I was a great admirer of, the great American poets. And what really sort of made it all click for me, the whole poetry thing, was when Bob Dylan released the song Like a Rolling Stone. And I realized, this is, Bob Dylan is elevating the American popular song in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were other great lyricists before him, but he kind of like galvanized the young people, and so when I was growing up, sitting on the family couch, the Beatles performed on the Ed Sullivan Show one night, and everybody I knew everybody watched the Ed Sullivan Show, and the Beatles just. I know the way I felt was, I want to be like them. And, the girls were screaming for them, but they also looked great. They looked so happy, and like everything seemed kind of perfect. And their harmonies were great, and their songs sounded like they were singing directly to you in the audience. And so I got the idea then, along with dozens, hundreds, I guess thousands of other young kids, that I wanted to start a band. And we did. I was already in my school band playing drums. And all of a sudden we started going into our basements and garages and setting up, and guys traded in their clarinets and got guitars. And we would have, one microphone and one, it was very primitive, but we got we were able to appreciate the feeling of rocking out you know, and we we would copy the Beatles or the Dave Clark Five or the Stones or uh, oh, we even got into like Jimi Hendrix and Cream and stuff like that later on. But um, uh, it was pretty much we were pretty much emulating the British invasion bands.
Hmm.
So so I had this dream from when I was like I guess about 12 or 12 years old. I had this dream that one day I would be in a band that people would admire and want to go pay money to see and stuff like that. So so that was my whole motivation. It was fulfilling this childhood dream.
Hmm. How would you compare your high school band, like the primitive one microphone starting out, to the very early days of the Artistics?
Actually, not that different. I think the Artistics had a little bit better equipment. I know I did by then, but uh, we were not a band that had a lot of gear or anything like that. Um, my first band was called the Lost Chords. I
It's a good
still
name.
That's a good name,
Yeah.
and we never recorded anything, but um, uh, neither did the Artistics ever record anything, which is my band in college.
Hmm. I read this quote, and I'm not exactly where it came from, but it was regarding the Talking Head '77 album that said it was kind of intended to quote convey a modern message about the importance of taking charge of your own life while still being fun to listen to. Not
Uh-huh.
sure who that's from, but I was wondering if there were any other Talking Heads albums that had a similar message or a similar intention.
Well, I think that was always kind of our message was that people should take charge of their own lives. And and yes, we wanted the experience to be fun for people, the people that were we were not overly serious or anything like that.
Mhm.
Uh, I think some people were maybe a little bit overly serious about our band, but I don't think we were ever overly serious until that album Remain in Light. And
Mhm.
things got a little serious then, but it was fine because we were doing something that was seriously new and different from what people expected from a rock and roll band at the
Mhm.
time. There was, if you compare our album Remain in Love to another great album that was being recorded in the studio right next door at the same time, which was AC/DC's Back in Black,
Yeah.
you can see what I mean by uh, we were doing something that was like really different. Um, who else was big at the time? Van Halen.
Mhm.
I mean, so we kind of set ourselves apart, I think, from the mainstream, even though we did manage to get some mainstream hits, almost mainstream.
I've been reading about an artist recently that hit a lot of similarities with what I was reading in Remain in Love. Their name is Lizzie Mercier Declos,
Yeah,
and they recorded at Compass Point. And I
yeah.
was interested because it seemed like they were doing
Mambo Nassau.
yeah, I recently picked it up on CD. I was interested because Mambo Nassau seems to have a lot of that, African rhythms and kind of like artistic integrity, but it didn't do so well in the United States compared to Remain in Love.
Yeah. Well, I knew Lizzie a little bit, and she was pretty fabulous. She had become Richard Hell's girlfriend.
I heard
She
about
came
that.
she came from to New York straight to CBGB's, I think, with her then boyfriend, and he was a guy who also owned her record label,
Mhm.
and then he owned a record store and T-shirt store in Paris. They were cool, and Lizzie kind of gravitated towards Richard Hell right away, and I think they had a pretty good relationship. But I didn't know her. I mean, we had a few conversations, and particularly she did with Tina, because Tina's mother is French, and Tina speaks French very well, so they would talk. Um, but yeah, she went down to that whole Mambo Nassau was inspired by Tom Tom Club, or
Ah,
so she told us. And in fact, she used the same engineer, Stephen Stanley, down at Compass Point Studios. And there are samples in that I don't know who the artist was that she sampled, but some people have implied that she did it without getting proper authorization from the original artist. But chances are the original artist never heard it anyway. So, but yeah, she was a real pistol.
yeah, good word for it.
Yeah.
Was there a certain point in time that you really like kind of trying to think of the good word for it, but where you kind of realized that you were not just in the right place in the right time with CBGBs in the late 70s, but you were like interacting with people who would be, have a pretty historical impact on the music scene?
Yes, I felt that way from the first time I saw the Ramones, and then there was Patti Smith, and then there was television. I was like, wow, I can't believe all these great bands, and they were, mind you, they were at the time. Patti Smith, for example, was just herself, a microphone, and Lenny Kaye strumming a guitar, an electric guitar, but she didn't have a proper band or anything. But it was the kind of she did the kind of performances that would literally make the hairs on the back of your neck kind of stand up, like
Mhm.
give you the chills. And it was very moving to me. Um, and the Ramones were so much fun because they looked to me like they were a conceptual art project. They they would start off a song like called "I Don't Want to Go Down to the Basement," and they'd be playing it, and super fast and loud, and all of a sudden they just stop and start yelling at each other. And Dee Dee would say to Johnny Ramone, "No, Johnny, I don't want to play. I don't want to go down to the basement. I want to play. I don't want to walk around with you." And I just thought, wow, man, this is so much fun. And they didn't even have all their black leather thing together yet, the black leather jacket uniform. They were, I think Dee Dee had the black leather jacket, but the rest of them hadn't quite formulated their look yet. And then there was television that was very, beat poet, messianic, very orchestrated kind of sound with a lot of repetition. So it would build and build and build. And they were great. And then there was a band like Suicide that kind of drove people away because they were so, how shall I say, harsh on the ears.
Mhm.
But they had a few songs like Dream Baby Dream, which ended up being covered by Bruce Springsteen of all people. So sadly, Alan, the lead singer, uh, is no longer alive. All the Ramones are gone, except for Marky, the second drummer.
Mhm.
But uh, yeah, I had the feeling that I was right in the midst of a new vanguard of music, and and I was well aware. When I started seeing people from the New York Times come down, like the New York Times don't ordinarily come down to write about a band that's never made a record before, you know.
Right.
And people were coming. Journalists were being flown over by their uh, uh, various record companies from London and from Paris, and there were people coming in from Tokyo, San Francisco. It was you could see that everything was kind of snowballing and really coalescing very well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I imagine you probably felt a similar way when you saw the B-52s for the first time. And
yeah.
I was wondering what that first show was like.
Well, the first show I saw of the B-52s was at Max's Kansas City, and we had met them in Atlanta. We did a show in Atlanta with Talking Heads and Elvis Costello. And afterwards, there was a band from Atlanta called the Fans, Fans, and we had done some shows with them at CBGB's. So they had a little party for us at this big old Southern house they had, and we met the B-52s, or the future B-52s, at that party that night. And they said, "Oh, we're going to make a record." And I said, "Oh, really? What do you call yourself?" And they said, "B-52s." And they're just wonderful. And uh, uh, so they sent us their record, as they said they would, a little 7-inch 45 Rock Lobster, backed with 52 girls. And I played it, and I thought, oh, I knew it. I knew they were going to be great, because I could tell they were like RISD kids. I could tell that they had, a real artistic bent.
Hmm.
And so they came up. They were actually denied. They wanted to play at CBGB's, and the CBGB's must have been some new guy on the phone, because he said, no, you can't play here. And I was, had I been there, I think we were off on tour at the time. Had I been there, I would have walked right over there and said, yes, they can play here, damn it. But anyway, they played at Max's. Tina and I went to see them, and they had to do it. It was one of those nights when they had a lot of bands on. They had to do a very short set, but believe me, they were the only band that night that anybody remembered the
Hmm.
next day. And they were just, so fresh and kind of kitsch, but also kind of ethereal at the same time. They had a like an onion has many layers. They had many layers, the B-52s, and of course there were the hairdos.
Hmm.
Yeah.
um, I'm interested if you have a perspective on the music scene in Connecticut at all.
Oh well, there used to be quite a punk scene here when my kids were younger, that I was aware of. I don't know what that's doing. There, I mean, everything with this virus situation, everything's just kind of slammed to a halt.
Hmm.
But there were some good bands around here. One in particular was called Deep Banana Blackout, and they were a. Have you heard of them?
No, I love the name though.
Yeah, Deep Banana Blackout, and they're no longer together.
It's a shame.
Although they do, you can see them on YouTube,
Hmm.
or order their record online. But they have a few records. They were a funk band, kind of like if you imagine James Brown's band, but all like nice white kids.
Hmm.
And but they were very bohemian in their approach, and they they when they broke up, there was it seems like every member of Deep Banana Blackout went out, off and formed another band,
Hmm.
and all of those bands were pretty funky in nature. Some of them better than others, but that's the Connecticut scene that I know, musically speaking. It's like I said, there's a lot of people that are sort of like keepers of the flame, bluesy cats, but well, also Nile Rodgers lives just down the road here, and so does Keith Richards, live just up the road, and who else? Well, I can't think of anyone else at the moment, but we have all types of musicians here. There's not a real scene, though. I'm sad to say, not at the moment. I don't think there's a real scene anywhere, is there?
In Connecticut?
No. I mean, in the United States.
Oh no. I think it's all, like you said, slammed to a halt.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for any artists that might be like struggling with the pandemic?
Oh, my advice would be to take advantage of this little gift of time that we have and use it to whatever, write some songs or make a painting or write a journal.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my advice, and my advice would be to don't worry, things will get better.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly if we elect a new president.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think if Talking Heads existed today, the music would be a little more politically charged because of the situation in the White House?
I think it's very possible, yes. Although we kind of used to avoid overt political statements,
mm-hmm.
But I think the time has come to be very overt about your politics, and I mean it's just crazy now. It's remember that song we wrote called "Don't Worry About the Government"?
Mm-hmm. Now it's on Broadway.
Yeah. Talking Heads has a Broadway show.
Other than the music, what do you think about Stop Making Sense that made it such a cinematic, impact?
Oh, well, did we talk about this earlier?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I've been doing a lot of interviews.
No, it's okay.
Let's talk about Stop Making Sense. The great thing about Stop Making Sense was that not just the band, but everybody involved in the making of Stop Making Sense was kind of at the top of their game, mm-hmm. and really did a good job. The people who recorded the sound, the people who held the cameras and shot the movie, our stage crew who put it all together and made it work so smoothly. And that was a real accomplishment. The lighting designers, the people that held the spotlights and did the projection behind the band with the artwork and stuff. It was just one of those things where everybody was at the top of their game. Mm-hmm. And for example, Jonathan Demme, the director, who is a guy we really loved very much, a great guy, he was smart enough to hire a guy as director of photography named Jordan Cronenweth. Jordan Cronenweth had not too long before that shot the movie called Blade Runner, which we loved and had a wonderful look, very romantic and also dramatic look. And so he was able to direct the photography so that we were very, very happy with the results. And was the first time we'd ever played with smoke machines going and stuff like that. But, you know, if you want to get a certain look, you got to have smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, the producer, the guy who had the title of producer, was a former child actor named Gary Getzman. Gary had been on one of the kids on this TV show called The Lucy Show, Lucille Ball. And but he'd grown up and he'd produced records for like Smokey Robinson and the Staples Singers and people like that. And he's now Tom Hanks's business partner.
Ooh.
But he yeah, they everything Tom does goes through Gary. So anyway, his only advice to us, like we were about to, the first night to start shooting, to go out there, you know, in front of the crowd and start shooting it. And Gary said, I think we asked him, do you got any advice for us? Any tips? And he said, don't look at the camera, and whatever you do, don't pick your nose. And you know, that was very good advice, I thought. And it stopped making sense. Like, thank God it came out so well, because I mean, there were no more Talking Heads live performances after that,
Mm-hmm.
due to David's reluctance. And his attitude was, well, now the movie can tour for us, which worked for a few months. You know, that did work for a few months. But anyway, it's a movie that can bear repeated viewings. You know, people tell me, oh, I watched it 200 times, or I watched it 50 times. Or, you know, it makes me happy.
That's wonderful. So the recordings from the name of this band, were they official, or were they like, you know, did you get them later on from like maybe a bootleg?
I think they were all official.
Did
Yeah.
you know that like a live album was planned when the show was happening?
Well, we would often record our shows. A lot of times, Warner Brothers Records would send a recording truck, an audio truck, to our gigs and to record them, so that they would have archives of our live performances. And of course, our deal was, yeah, you can use them, but we own them.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, like, there's stuff from the early days, and then there's stuff from the bigger band. And on that album, you really can see the arc that we made was pretty extreme, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite records. It's very wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I remember we had a little problem when it came time to mix everything. We had a little problem because the tracks that had been recorded in Tokyo, you know, in Japan, they're like, everything is by the manual.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do everything. So they were recorded very quietly so that they wouldn't distort, so there would be no distortion. And, you know, sometimes you want a little distortion, but we worked on it till we got it right.
Is there a certain era or an album that you look back on with like the most fondness?
There's two.
Mm-hmm.
One is More Songs About Buildings and Food, which was the first album we did with Brian Eno in the role of producer, or co-producer, really. And it was also the first time we'd been to record at Compass Point in the Bahamas. And we would later, you know, we would eventually make 6 or 8 albums between Talking Heads and Tom Tom Club at Compass Point. But this was the first time, and I'd never been to a tropical island before, and it was only the second time we'd ever been in a recording studio. And we were working with Brian Eno, and who was kind of a hero of ours in a way, or at least somebody we admired very much. And everything went really well because we'd been was kind of effortless because we'd been performing all those songs already for months and months, and we've been touring Europe and touring America, and we were just tight and snappy, and we and it was just really pleasant. I remember we were there at Easter time, and Brian Eno loved gospel music, so we took him on a little tour of gospel churches in the Bahamas to hear the singing on Easter Sunday. He loved that. We loved that too. And although the people in the churches kind of looked at us when we came in, like, what are these white people? What do they want? But so there was that one, and we had our first hit, our first bona fide hit from that album with "Take Me to the River," which actually went top 40 in America and was played on like AM radio and stuff. So that was a successful experience, and lots of fun too. The other one, I would say, the other experience that I loved was also at Compass Point, and that was the making of the first Tom Tom Club album. I mean, all of our albums have been a more or less a wonderful experience to make, but these were the ones that were super fun. And the Tom Tom Club one, I mean, we got down there. Okay, we've got to make an album now without David and Jerry. It's just me and Tina. What are we gonna do? And but we did it, and that album took off like a rocket ship, and outsold any Talking Heads album by not once or twice, but by 10 times. And so it not only did it sell well, one of the reasons it sold well was because it crossed over into another segment of the population. This being what they called the urban, the black people of color. They loved that record, and particularly the song "Genius of Love." And it was sampled, and I mean, I have to update the Tom Tom Club website but there's a list of the amount of times it's been sampled, and it's like too many to remember. I have to update it. And nobody goes to websites anymore. They just go to the Facebook page or the Instagram page. But yes, I would say more songs about buildings and food, and the eponymous Tom Tom Club album were the most fun I had.
In relation to Jerry touring with Turquoise to celebrate Remain in Love, if you were to do a tour celebration of an album, which one would you pick?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I would, well, maybe Speaking in Tongues would be a good one. Yeah, celebrate speaking in tongues. I mean, you have to have one song that you can play that'll bring everybody, bring everybody to the front of the stage. And that album has Burning Down the House, and also This Must Be the Place, that people love. And but I was also going to say Fear of Music is the album Fear of Music is got some pretty wild music on it too. That could be a good one.
Fear of Music's my personal favorite.
Yeah,
I like that one. Have you ever seen another band do like a cover set of either Talking Heads or Tom Tom Club?
I've seen people do. I didn't see Fish do their thing in Atlanta.
Hmm.
I know about it. I have the CD and everything, but I've never seen anybody do a whole set of Talking Head songs. I've seen people do a version of Burning Down the House or a version of Genius of Love or something like that.
Hmm.
But I've never. It always gives me great pleasure to hear it.
We when I was going to school at the University of Hartford, there was this band that would play every Wednesday night, and they would do a different band every night. And they did Talking Heads one night, and that was the only night that I had a hangover from the next morning. Very fun.
Yeah.
Do you have any current favorite bands or exciting ones that you're passionate about?
Yes, I have a couple of bands that I like. There's one band called Sunflower Bean. Are
Hmm.
you familiar with Sunflower Bean?
No, but I like that name as well.
Yeah, check them out.
Hmm.
And the other one that I really like as well is called, and I'm not sure if I'm getting the pronunciation right, Krongbin.
Hmm.
Krongbin, K-R, or maybe it's K-H-R. It's a Thai word.
Hmm.
K-H. Anyway, they're from Houston, Texas. Let's see. I'm gonna look it up here. Krongbin. Here we go. Khrunangbin.
Wow.
I think it's Thai for airplane.
Oh, okay.
This is their latest.
Transform snacking
Oh, wait.
with Lay's kettle cooked jalapeno flavored chips.
Gotta sit through the ad. Now they give you 2 ads instead of 1. Here we go. And this kind of reminds me of Tom Tom Club. You know?
Yeah,
Little of the Talking Heads too.
that's a good solid rhythm section.
Yeah, it's 3 people. The bass player is a woman.
Hmm. The girls could do it too, y'all.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Krongbin. Weird name.
Yeah. So Krongbin, Sunflower Beam, and what was the other one? Banana Black.
Oh, Deep Banana Blackout. That's the
Banana
band from Connecticut that was so funky.
I was thinking about a band that I might recommend to you, and there's only one that I can think of. Are you familiar with Wolfpack at all?
Yes.
I thought you might like.
I love them, but you know what?
Hmm.
I'm starting to wonder because they're getting faster and faster and faster, and to the point where they're almost playing too fast for me. It's like the funkiness goes away when you get too fast.
Yeah.
But I do like them very much.
They have that side project. I'm not sure if you're familiar, the Fearless Flyers.
Yes.
And that's all the fastest stuff. But
yeah.
I'm not sure if you've seen the Madison Square Garden concert, but it's just so joyful. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen the whole thing, but I've seen bits, and I do like them. I've been following them for a few years. You know.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard that they're selling the last song on their new album?
No.
So they have this selling it. Yeah, they have this new album coming out, and they put it up on eBay, and they're letting anybody bid on it. And it's the only thing is it can't be like crude or anything like that, and it's got to be under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But The last time I checked, it was going for $50,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mean they'll put your song on their album,
Mm-hmm.
$50,000?
Mm-hmm. They'll put anything on there as long as it's recorded.
Ah, wow.
Yeah. Well, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to give you a moment to kind of promote your works, maybe your book, the new Tom Tom Club Record Store Day vinyl. Anything that you're excited
Sure.
about or working on in your own words.
Well, yeah, my main thing right now, Ryan, is
Mhm.
this: Remain in Love. Th- Um, would it be okay if I read
Of course.
Bill Murray's blurb? Bill Murray, the author of the Cinderella story, My Life in Golf. Okay, here it is. From the first time I saw Talking Heads at CBGB's in 1976, I've had a huge thing for Tina Weymouth. And since then, I've been biding my time, waiting for the right moment to make my move. But after reading Remain in Love by Chris Frantz, it's become pretty clear to me that she's already in a relationship. See pages 9, 3, 33 through 34, etc. And what's more, it looks to be serious. See pages 41, 43 through 48, and especially page 147. But you know something? That's okay. I'm happy for Tina and for Chris, a great drummer who has written a great book. So thank you, Bill Murray. But this is what I'm working on. And first you have to write the book, then you have to publish the book, and then you have to promote the book. So, but I'm happy to do it. It's really been a good experience.
It was a wonderful read. I'm very happy that it came to fruition.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm going to hit the stop record button, but thank you so much for your time, Chris.
You bet.